You see the title, you see the scenery, you know what it means. I probably should have went live vertically instead of horizontally. And this time it was intentional, so I can't blame technology. Just anyway, good morning. So there may have been something to the whole 9-9 thing. And the grand irony of life, or at least Patrick's life, because I can't speak for all lives, or all ways of living, or all lives lived. Today's, yesterdays, and tomorrows, forevers and nevers. Um, but anyway, I got a message from someone that I used to work with, who honestly, I wasn't there for very long, but he was always like, "Oh, like you have such huge potential," or whatever. He was like, "In no time, you're gonna be like doing whatever, or whoever, or whatever, you know?" And I was like, "Oh." So he reached out to me and asked me sort of like what I'm doing, what I'm up to, what I've been up to, what my plans are for the future. And I'm like, thinking right now I want to go back to school and get my master's because I want to make a shift in my career. And I've taken a few classes in the area that I want to go in, but maybe not necessarily enough to like do what I want to do. You know what I mean? So, long story short, and then I'm like, I'm also going to be out of town for a few weeks in a month. And he was like, "Oh, you go. Okay, that's fine." And I feel like on my part, there were things that I was saying to like kind of, you hear the train? There were things that I was saying to kind of try to be like, not necessarily expecting that I would be accommodated, I guess. That I thought would have been like, "Oh, yeah, okay, well, never mind." But it turns out there's a lot of flexibility. And I told my journey buddy, I sent her a message. I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for being you." Because I took inspiration from her. I took a page out of her book. I feel like usually if there's a lot of circumstances that I sort of whatever, walking and talking out here at the same time is hard if I ain't been out here in a minute. Um, but usually, kind of like what my friend was saying, I guess, if there's a bunch of circumstances, either imagine sometimes, but hopefully mostly like real, like in a few months, I'm going to be doing something. Between that time, I already have plans. Like, usually I just say no, I shut down the opportunity. But this time, I was just like, "Oh, well, like, this is what I have going on." It was like, "Oh my gosh, sounds great. I think we can be flexible." And it's interesting because if I do go back to school, I kind of still want to work part time, depending on everything, of course. But I want to try it. Um, and this opportunity would work perfectly into that. Like, it accommodates me where I am now, it accommodates where I want to go. But there's also an opportunity to move up into like senior management. And so it's like, I was thinking, like, when I heard the title, I was thinking like a few levels above, or a level above, a few levels above where I was, but like a level above where I have been. And this position is like way up. And I was like, and she was like, just from this conversation, I feel like it's definitely something you could do. We could, like, if you wanted to work full time, we could hire you on and like have this timeline and like when you would assume the role and stuff. And I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, like, thanks for the consideration. Honestly, flattered. But again, I was thinking it was like one thing. And so then I'm racking my brain because I like to do this thing where I kind of leave it up to the universe. Hey, David, how you doing today? I do this thing where I kind of like to leave it up to the universe. I'm like, I might put an egg in this basket, an egg in that basket, a few eggs in another basket, and we'll just see what happens. We'll see what gains traction, what takes off. But this one like kind of blindsided me because again, I wasn't expecting it. I literally woke up to a message in my inbox. And it was on 9/9, so I was like, oh, maybe there is something to this 9/9 thing. I don't know. But, yeah, it kind of sort of threw me for a loop yesterday because I was like, I don't know which I prefer or what I want to do. And I was kind of feeling like if I chose one, then it would cut off another. But after I sat with it, again, like I've already mentioned, I realized that like that would be a major leap in my career path. It would completely change my trajectory. It would shorten the career journey by at most like a decade. But then it was that question of like, but is that what I want? And the irony being, again, like when I was going to the airport with Eve, we were in the car and it made the dinging noise. And then it was like, oh, there's a shortcut. If you turn left right here, you can shave time off your journey. And I even remember thinking, I was like, if I was the person behind the wheel, like I think I would have stayed on the route I was on. And I was telling my mom about it. And she was like, yeah, I probably would have done the same. But I was like, but Eve was behind the wheel. So she made that turn. And now, I guess the irony is, in another way that manifests in life, I guess, I'm in a similar situation where all of a sudden this out of nowhere shortcut appears from a ding, even though I was asleep and my phone was on do not disturb. If I was awake, I would have heard it. If my phone wasn't do not disturb, it would have made a ding noise. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna stay on the path I was on. And I don't know, it's the irony of it is interesting. But besides that, I'm on a jog. It's chat. It's a walk. I know. I feel like most of the times I come out of the gate just like talking. But yeah. You see the trees? They haven't changed yet. Some of these are starting to like brown up here. Like some of them are browning. There's still a lot of green. I see some yellows over here. Anyway, what else is going on? I don't know. That may be it, I feel like ultimately, well, I finished watching a show, and I feel like if I don't say the title of the show, I don't necessarily have to like a spoiler warning, you know what I mean? Because I'm kind of bad at spoiling stuff sometimes. Like when I spoil things unintentionally, it's because I confuse the chronology of the show, the series, the story. So somebody will be like, oh yeah, and this happened, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like what about this other thing? And then like, I haven't seen it yet. And I was like, oh, sorry. So anyway, there's this show that I'm watching, and I've probably already mentioned it. I'm pretty sure I have. But the Greek pantheon plays a central part of it. And you see Hades and Persephone, and later in the show, um, I feel like I missed some of the context of the scene, but later in the show, Persephone confronts someone, and she's like, "Hey, why did you make my myth, like the myth creators, the ones that created the myths for people to believe and follow?" Um, Also, from episode one, every time they go Vero or whatever, I'm like, they're face palming. They're like literally face palming. Anyway, she's like, why did you write my myths that way? In a way that makes it look like I was forced to be with Hades. And according to some of the tellings, things got kind of violent and grisly. And she's like, I love him. Like, I'm with him because I love him. I support him. And I don't know, for me personally, like, I know it's like a myth or whatever, but it never really, I don't know, it never kind of sat right with me. The whole telling of how he like basically kidnapped Persephone, Hades basically kidnapped Persephone, and she's forced to be his wife and spend time with him in the underwater, blah, 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 whatever. And it's partially because there are some things, there are some manifestations of certain things that don't arise through force. Meaning, like if someone is in a situation that they don't want to be in for one, or if they're in a situation that's forced for another, the dynamic is different. And the qualities of the dynamic is different. And what the dynamic produces is also different. Like, there are certain things, again, that can't be won by force. And I don't know. For some reason, when I looked at the Greco-Roman pantheon and the myth, it never seemed like the things, like the dynamic and what was won through the dynamic, those weren't things that are able to be won by force. And I wonder if that almost speaks sort of metaphorically, as Pluto has just re-entered Capricorn for the last time in several hundred years. And sort of, I don't know, with the way that we approach certain things in life in general, where it's about forcing or convincing or conniving. And again, like, there are things you can claim by force. There are things that you can take by force. But again, there's just certain things that only blossom under choice and mutual presence, I guess. Like when two people show up and they're both contributing. So I'm walking like against the sun now. I'm basically at the front. I've almost closed the loop. I'm gonna turn around and go back, retrace my steps. If only as I retrace my steps, because I'm kind of like walking backwards, quote unquote. If only I could regain all of the moisture that I've lost to sweat and all of the energy that I've exerted. Also, I kind of want it to just be like facing the sun for a little bit longer. Oh my gosh, look at this tree. I try to be respectful to the names that rest here. Where is it? You see that? Look at that. It's like there are so many main branches that shoot off of the trunk. But there's that one like right in the middle that just like is shredded. It's like splintered. It's wild. I guess with the whole like opportunity that's like, and I got a fortune a few days ago that was like, everything will now come to you. And I was in the car with my mom, and I was joking like, I ain't got to do nothing, I ain't got to go nowhere, because it's all coming to me. um that was a few days ago, and then I got this opportunity, and I was in this spate of, and then I went to Walmart, and I was like, I can't decide on like what drink I want to get. I can't decide on if I'm gonna get chips, if I want chips. Like, I was so indecisive, which for Patrick isn't necessarily anything like extremely atypical. Um, Sometimes it's like, well, I can see the benefit of this, and I can see the benefit of that, and I can see the benefit of this other thing. And also, sometimes you just got to be open, you know? But yeah, it was kind of, I was really racking my brain because I'm like that would be an amazing opportunity. And it's almost like, in some ways, because my path, especially through academia, and because of my path through academia, my path outside of it or after it, it's been a quote unquote detour. Now, for me, I know it wasn't a detour because of the place that I reached within myself, right? Um, but it's been like, I didn't graduate in the standard 4-year whatever, you know? And so in a certain way, it's almost like this opportunity that bridges into a greater opportunity catches me up on that timeline. Um, Again, because it's such a significant leap, it would put me in the realm of like where I could have been, or what I could have been like aiming for. And then with the pitfalls, this isn't necessarily a pitfall, although I guess it could be, because I don't know what would happen, of like paths that we don't choose. And so I was in this indecisiveness, not fully spiraling, but just like, I was so set on doing this one thing, and now there's this whole other amazing whatever that just came out of nowhere. What do I do? And then I finally was able to order some, I guess, food from the hibachi place, because they close from like 2:30 to 4:30, which is typically the time that I'm like out, like either in the gym, just getting out of the gym, like out and about on that side of town. But we went in a little later yesterday. I placed the order, and my fortune said don't let fear hold you back from your true potential. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. I got a personal reading yesterday. I took a chance. And I got a personal reading, and I loved it. And that's something that, in whatever ways, it came up like in the reading. And I thought this was, let me see, where's the camera? You see that? There you go. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you could. Don't let fear hold you back from your true potential. And at first I was like kind of nervous about, before I even fully realized the scope of the position. Because again, like, I thought this was a level / a few levels above where I was, not like all the way up here. And I was like, not necessarily fully like hesitant, but just like, yeah, a little nervous maybe about that. Not necessarily as much as what I thought. Um, but I was just like, I don't know, you know. And she was like, yeah, I can, in the conversation, she was like, I can tell that, like, you know, this is the kind of person you are. And with what you've already done, like, I don't think it would take too much for you to, like, be here or to be capable of this, or more so, like, qualified for this. Because there is a difference between capability and qualification. Someone could be extremely capable of doing something, but if they don't have the certifications, the credentials, the qualifications, then it can make things difficult, especially from a logistics point of view. Now, I'm not the type of person that necessarily subscribes to the whole, like, you have to have a piece of paper from this certain place to be able to do something. I'm not the type of person that thinks that a piece of paper makes me better or more capable than anyone else. But also at the same time, I know that there are circumstances and situations that have been created where that piece of paper is like a ticket to enter a certain space, and also that there are industries or functions or roles that could benefit from like a specialized education, especially depending on what it is. And again, I think a lot of those things aren't uh, unique to that educational structure. I think with enough investment and time, energy, effort, mostly time spent like experiencing different things and building out a foundation. Um, I don't know if there aren't too many things that necessarily super require whatever. Anyway, I'm not one of those people, but I don't know, something about qualification versus capability is kind of sticking in my ear a little bit. If I was a card pulling man, I might try to turn that into something to pull cards over. And then there would be a question of whether or not the qualification is entirely needed. Now, from a liability standpoint, that's when things are like different, you know. If everything is fine and everyone's happy, then not many people complain. But when something goes wrong, or when something happens that wasn't supposed to happen, now everything is sort of being scrutinized. And that would be an opportunity, I guess, when like qualification would be called into consideration, right? But then at the same time, it's like, would it even necessarily matter? Not really. So it's kind of a point to pick on when it's not there. But if it was there, then it's like it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't change the situation. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's what I was like this whole time sort of thinking. Loosely, not super attached to it. But then, you know, several hours later, when I would get that email that's like, your reading is ready, and I would watch it, and now I'm like, oh wow, that made a whole lot of sense in a completely different way. And yeah, besides that, I don't know, I'm feeling, I don't know. There are some things that I'm walking against the sun now anyway. Can you see the sun? It's up there somewhere in the sky. If you wanted to see what the sun looks like here right now, I guess. See, and then I would have pulled like before and after the sun card. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. But like I was saying, I feel like I'm in this space for a minute now because, I've talked about it. I've pulled cards on it here, done self readings, and the what do I do next? What do I do now space? And I feel like the phase of the work or the journey or the whatever that I was in is complete now. I feel like I've done, said, participated in what I was meant to. I mean, to the best of my ability. Am I going to say that I did literally every single thing I was supposed to do? No, because I don't, I got a lot of confidence in a lot of stuff. I also got a lot of questions in a lot of stuff. I don't have that much confidence. My ego isn't that big to say, yeah, I did everything perfectly. But, a squirrel just like ran up a tree. I looked over and then it went up the tree. Is that who? Ratatosker? Oh, they found me. They found me. I'll let it pass. The infamous lawnmower man appears. And that's the reason why I turned around pretty much 180 degrees from where I am now. Straight that way. I've completed half of the circuit. But yeah, I remember I was talking to Eve. I was like, there are certain things that I'm just really, really resistant to. And now it's been kind of nagging at me a little bit. I'm like, oh gosh, what does this mean? Because, I like to say that my gift is one of connection. And so sometimes my gift of connection manifests as empathy. Sometimes my gift of connection manifests as being, quote unquote, being able to follow a breadcrumb trail and piece together or whatever. Sometimes my gift of connection may manifest as a gauge of resonance or dissonance between things of what I'm hearing is this, what I'm seeing is this, and what I'm feeling is something else. And the degree of how much they match, or if there's a disruption in the frequency or whatever. And I was just sort of thinking about that last night. Because again, and I think it was before I watched that reading, honestly. It could have been after. And I was like, yeah, because, I always say my gift is one of connection, but I wouldn't call myself an empath. I would say that I have empathic capabilities, but I wouldn't call myself an empath. And it was yeah, maybe that's, again, manifestations of the gift that look like or would appear like one thing. And then especially, I think I talked about it a little bit. I talk about a fair amount of things on here, but also there are some things that are personal, And I might talk about or share enough to give a general context into a certain situation or whatever, without necessarily giving the entire story, And so those first three cards that I pulled from the SKT Vitruvian held a special like resonance and significance. And I guess even the last time I did the self-read and the warrior and the sword and that stuff came out, um, I don't know. It's almost like it's this point in time for certain things to be undertaken, maybe, you know? And so maybe the part of me that wanted to stay more like obscure and relatively unknown, like I will talk into the void. I do not mind. You know what I mean? I remember like when I first started going live, and I would get like kind of sort of genuinely mad when somebody would show up, and I was like, I almost made it a whole hour just talking to myself. I don't know, the parts of me that wanted to remain sort of unknown or unseen, I don't know if they're starting to give way. It feels like I'm definitely being put in a situation or asked for them to give way to whatever comes next. And again, what does this mean? I don't know. Patrick is Patrick. Sometimes Patrick doesn't even know what Patrick is going to do. You know? Patrick could just wake up one morning, feel like whatever, and then all of a sudden, I don't want to do this. I don't know. This chalk is almost over. We've made it over half an hour. I'm excited. I can see the car. I see the finish line in the distance. I don't want to do too much because I still got to go to the gym later, you know? But yeah, I didn't walk inside. Most of the times I come now, I'll walk the perimeter. I want to walk inside, you know? Anyway, so I think that might be it. What else? I don't know. I have one more Bloomburrow booster pack. I was thinking of opening it on the other channel just to sort of like see what it would look like. I feel like it's probably been like 2 years, at least a year since I've made a video on that channel. I don't even know if I made a video from the place I had while I was there on that channel. Oh, I see Swan. The last name Swan. 92, that was the year before I was born. Oh, wow. Born in 1883, 1877, and 1903. They definitely have longevity. Because that's almost 90, 70, and 70, yeah, 70, 70, 90. I don't know, was 70 years a long time back in the 1800s? You know, I don't want to be like rude, but you know, you'll see things sometimes where they'll be like, oh yeah, with like medicine or healthcare or humanity's ability to address disease and, you know, other maladies, once somebody got something, they were kind of sort of sometimes just gone. And you know, they say that life expectancy has like increased. So that was it. I don't know, I guess this is it. The well is dry. The throat is dry. The body is thirsty. It's thinking iced coffee. What time is it? I might get a nice coffee, I might not. I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's been this chalk. I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey and what you find. And I hope I guess I hope you a guiding principle, right? And I guess my guiding principle in life right now is the things that I want. You know, I feel like I'm in a period of my life that's all about putting in effort. So maybe a little less just putting eggs in baskets and laying them around the place to see what random wandering fowl will come and incubate it. uh, but yeah, it's more so like going after what I want. Things that I'll enjoy. And also kind of like taking chances, putting myself out there maybe. Not saying no to things that I really want to say yes to. Fortunately, I've had the past few years to get more comfortable with not defaulting to no. But anyway, I will catch y'all maybe later today. Who knows? I got an itch to pull cards. And maybe the procrastination